better. It's just
There you go. Yep, perfect.
Okay, so this is our final doohickey, guys. Number 4 for group 3. We have Sadiq, Kristen, Susan, Jane, Kaylee, and Grace.
All right.
All right. Okay, I'll go ahead and start us off. Discipline and dismissing employees. So a few of the problems at doohickeys regarding discipline and dismissing employees is that the brand new HR manager on her 4th day was just informed that she would have to hire seasonal employees, and that after the season was over, the Christmas season was over, she would have to and so with no clear HR policies regarding dismissals, discipline, or layoffs, that presents a problem. So
big problem.
Yes, that is definitely a big problem. And so some of the solutions that are feasible and available to them would be to engage employees after the hire, engaging the employees, allowing them to know what is going on and allowing them to know the process. Brings us to the second solution, which ensures procedural fairness. So if employees know what is happening and what is going on, they will more likely feel that it's fair, that it was a fair deal. Communicate openly and honestly. If from the start they understand that they are just seasonal hires, then they should not expect anything more from the company. And if the manager can ensure that all of the new hires, that they are aware of that contract, that situation, then the layoff should go smoothly. And doohickeys needs to conduct training for the managers who are responsible for layoffs, because it is kind of like, it's a tough decision for them to make. And I know that they have to do, like sensitivity training,
Right.
and focus on treating the employees with dignity. So it's, kind of letting them off easy. And then in our class reading regarding layoffs, some of the options that were mentioned, I just added to our slide because I thought, it's a good resource and it's good knowledge to have. Other options besides layoffs are hiring freezes. You can have employees go on mandatory vacations. You can kind of reduce their work week, and then salary reduction. Because unfortunately for companies, layoffs, usually it's always a budget and cost issue. So that was
All right.
pretty much the end of my.
Okay, so and now, so besides that, so we already talked about right now about those seasonal employees, but we also have our base number of employees that are currently working at the plant, and so we can see that there has to be a change in the culture and the mindset that a lot of people in management have. So they know that contracts with employees are at will employment. So they somehow feel justified that, okay, if I don't like this employee, I just want HR to let them go without a process, without any kind of specific process. Like they're not even trying to take any actions to improve their performance. They're just choosing to let those employees go. So in the article that we read during class about discipline without punishment, they talk about how important recognizing good performance is. That how it is as important as confronting poor performance. So it's a change of mindset. We're not just gonna let people go. We're also gonna try to invest on them to help them improve. And we read that effective generic documentation provides complete information about the problem itself, and the history of the problem and the discussion that occurred between the employee and the manager. So this is very important. It's something that is not happening. We see that the turnover rate with non-management employees is 50%. So
Wow.
compared to,
Yeah, it's really high.
it
Yeah.
is really high. So what's going to be the actions that management will will have to take to reduce the turnover? Well, first they need to see um, what the problems are, and then management can take actions based on that data.
Hmm.
So to come up with that information, we need documentation, and we see that the main reasons that we have performance problems are attendance. Um, I mean, problems with employees are either attendance, performance, or behavior. And so we're gonna find we could find that the positive approach is can be very effective. So we would identify through management those employees that have uh, some problems, and we would follow the same model, which is the positive contact. We would approach the employee, telling them what are the things that they're doing right about their job, how they so they can feel appreciated. We recognize what they do, and we're gonna plan a performance improvement discussion. It's not gonna be just a PIP like the regular way to document why an employee is failing. We're not just going to follow them and micromanage them so that we can find a justification to let them go. We're actually going to have a meeting with them and see and set goals so that they can actually uh, achieve. And then a formal reminder one, formal reminder number two, and then there's that decision, right? To either stay or have them go. And a termination should be based uh, on performance or having them stay, right? And like we saw, also let them go should be the last resource uh, after we have done everything we could to help the employee either perform well, or if their skills are no longer needed, then have is it called severance package, right? When they leave,
Hmm.
so they can feel that it was just. So yeah, that's.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Okay, and next we have the sexual harassment in the workplace. This was a big issue at Doohickeys, and I was surprised to see that it wasn't even addressed until the new HR manager had been on the job for a week.
Right.
They had no sexual harassment policy, as well as lack of enforcement of that policy because there was no HR manager to report these incidents to. And then one of the other things that we saw here in the doohickey was that the behavior was tolerated and kind of very prominent throughout the male employees. Um, so my 4 solutions for this uh, sexual harassment issue are an overhaul of their sexual harassment policy, meaning they actually need to have one and they need to enforce it. Trainings on behavior and what is and is not appropriate, what kind of commenting is considered inappropriate and rude and along the lines of sexual harassment. And then one of the other things is having posted notices throughout the company, throughout the building, so that they can have little reminders of workplace appropriateness, and not just in a sexual manner, but as well as using foul language or talking down to other employees. And then the final solution would be the formal write-up and disciplinary actions based on the things that are being reported to the HR manager. And if they have those things in place and they're able to document them when they occur, it'll help doohickeys not be so much of a liability in the future. If this woman had taken her complaint to a lawyer, she absolutely would have had a case. And that would put major strain on the company. So I think
Absolutely.
you know, and especially in this day and age, the things that we're seeing on the news almost on a daily basis in regards to sexual harassment, it's only going to get worse. And we need to make sure that we're speaking up and taking appropriate actions so that everyone feels comfortable at work. They feel safe.
Right.
I think recording it all is what makes the difference. As long as everything is documented, then it kind of protects everybody.
Right, exactly. And as well as in the dismissing and laying off employees. You've got to have that paper trail to give yourself a backup in case it comes back to bite you.
Exactly.
So is it number 5 now?
Yes, you're up.
Okay. Are you going to put up my slide? Or am I supposed to do that?
Can you guys not see it? It's up right now.
Up. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's up.
Okay.
Substance abuse in the workplace?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I was really surprised at this because I did not realize how much drug use was in the workplace. I was surprised. And the biggest thing that I learned in this course was about the EAP, the Employment Assistance Program. I can't imagine that people would go and talk with them, as we talked in our group discussion, because they would be in fear of losing their job if somebody knew that they had a drug problem.
Right.
I think that it seems to not really go together. I just think that's really a touchy circumstance, and most people aren't going to admit to that on the job, especially because that will put their job in jeopardy. But it's good that they have the EAP program to help. So maybe if it's a suggestion, I don't know if there's something in the EAP that allows them to be safe from the consequence of going to them. Is it?
Oh, there's got to be.
Like a counselor, it's client confidentiality.
Protected, right.
So I don't know enough about the EAP to know that. But I have known many people on drugs, and all of the things that they talk about, how they're late for work and they struggle with doing their job well and staying on top of things. It's so classic. And I think that when you are using a substance that distorts your thinking, that's why they have so many more lawsuits and complaints. And I just think that, like all of the other slides, it's important to keep track of everything, and so that you have reason and proof of them falling down on the job. And I also think that drug testing, it should be mandatory, because whether it's expensive or not, it will save the company a lot of money if they,
in the long run. Yeah,
yes,
I agree.
Yes, if they can eliminate those problems, because they don't need that. It's not going to be conducive to good productivity.
Right.
Right.
That's all I have to say about it.
All right, go to the next one.
So with this, just from the readings, divorce rates are at 50% nowadays in North America, United States.
Yep.
And it's ranked number 2 on the scale of stressful life events, only after death of a child or spouse, which is crazy. And it costs about $8,000 just for like an agreeable divorce. That's splitting everything 50-50, just normal legal fees. And it can really impact the employee's work ethic. In the readings, it said it was like a 50 to 75% drop in productivity at work. And so just like as a manager, someone working in human resources, I think it's important to remember to show those traits, compassion, empathy, and support to your employees, especially the ones who are going through those hard times of divorce. But it also talked a lot about how important it is to maintain your role as a supervisor and as an employer, and not to become their personal therapist or problem solver. That's why there's those coping programs like the Employee Assistance Program. It's to help direct them to the appropriate resources where they can get professional help instead of just colleagues or the media.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, did you have something to say?
I was going to ask if any of your businesses have an EAP program.
Mine does not.
We had one when I was.
Mine does. It's you only get like a limited number of like visits to a therapist or like financial expert or things like that, but up to I think it's 6 visits, it's free, and then after that you have to start paying for it yourself.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
don't.
It's just really interesting to me. Sorry. Go ahead, Kaylee.
You're good. All right. So, one of like the sections under workplace and society was work and home balance, and so some of the problems that were at doohickeys, the employees don't have time to do personal things because they work really long shifts, so they don't have time for personal things like laundry and cleaning, cooking, doctor's appointments, etc. Another problem is that makes employees super tired. Okay, hold on, what happened? I'm just gonna have to keep talking. I don't know why my camera shut off.
Uh-oh. It's okay.
So then the third problem is some employees are forced to work 7 days a week. So if you noticed in the paper that we read, the HR employee that was just barely hired worked for 7 days straight her first week. And there really isn't a need for all employees to work all 7 days, which leads to the next problem, is which is flexible hours don't exist. Flexible hours. Okay, wait a second. Employees work the same shift every single day, which means they don't have time to do anything for themselves. And as a solution to these problems, employees should first communicate. If they approach management about working from home, even they can try to work something out. HR, there's a lot of paperwork involved, and so some of that paperwork can be done at home. Another solution is allow employees to leave early if their job is done. For just as an example, if an employee gets their job done in only 6 hours, but they are on shift for 8 hours, there's not really a need for them to be there for that extra 2 hours, so they should just go home, basically. And then the next solution is allow rest breaks. In an article that I read, it said that taking breaks has been shown to increase productivity levels. Breaks also reduce stress and allow employees to gain their composure again, which companies want high productivity levels. They want their employees to do the best that they can, and breaks kind of allow their employees to gain that composure again. And then another solution is to offer flexible hours. Another example would be to allow employees to work 4 long days and take a 3-day weekend, or allow employees to make up time missed for doctor's appointments or dentist appointments. And then they don't have to worry about taking that time off. They can just make the time up.
Yeah.
Those are great ideas. Well, that's what nurses do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
And I don't know if you guys care about an example is GM, the factory workers. They have mandatory overtime unless they get their production goals met. And so it's really interesting because that's a real life circumstance. And when you're going through all of that, I was just thinking of that completely. So it's really, I think that GM's been my example because of knowing a little bit of their workings, because that was for the drug testing and for the overtime. It's really interesting to see that in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the nature of their work, I think it really is required. I think it should be one of the very important things that should be done, because the moment you implement all these things, also the level of accidents will be reduced.
Right.
If you're 2 hours just being idle, then you probably are distracting other people from what they should be doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Plus, I don't know, so many other things that could happen.
True.
Awesome. So our last slide just talks about the biggest issue, and we voted that sexual harassment was the largest issue at doohickeys, just because aside from layoffs and working overtime and other societal issues, you want the workplace to be a place where you can go and be productive and get your job done. And if you're facing sexual harassment issues and inappropriate behavior from other employees, it makes it hard for you to want to go there and do your job. So, you know, if they implement some of the changes that we suggested, it would drastically improve the environment that they provide to their employees. It would teach the male employees a thing or two about how to treat and respect other coworkers, as well as making the women feel like they are being heard and their feelings are important also.
Yeah.
And then our last slide is our sources that we used. Yep.
Awesome.
Do you guys have any other comments that you want to add before I stop the live production?
Nope. I think that was a good job, you guys.
Okay.